Bitcoin is racing up. It's almost at all-time highs. Ethereum's almost at all-time highs. Solana just went up 15% yesterday alone. I want to explain what's happening right now, some re-ratings of cryptocurrencies, some banks now saying that they're almost doubling their price targets. We'll also be going through some of the big flows from yesterday. And I also want to go through a recent announcement from Trump that Fox is saying is pushing up the cryptocurrency market right now, which I totally agree with. And also Tom Lee talking about what's happening right now in the market. He mentions Bitcoin a handful of times, talks about Ethereum. He puts out a very high price target on Ethereum as well. So I'll be playing all that for you. If you don't mind, please hit subscribe so you can see future videos just like this one. If you want to trade crypto, now's the time. Now is the time. Check out BYDeFi underneath the video. You can start trading in just a few minutes because they don't KYC. You don't need a VPN. Recently, we opened up a 60x position on Bitcoin when we flipped this into support. I did add a little bit more margin, so it was more like 25x. We closed it just a few days ago and put it into a 3x just to, reduce the risk a little bit, but we also doubled how much we had in the trade because we made 100% on the 60x. So, you can constantly roll trades like that to lower risk as well once you're up a significant amount. And we have this trading competition going on right now. It's not even really a competition because it's just free money. Every $1 million that anyone trades that has used one of my links increases the price pool by $100, and that will go out to people at the end of this 25-day left period, 26 days left. We just gave away over $6,000 of XRP. We gave away thousands of dollars of Bitcoin before that. We constantly run these, and it's not just for new users. So check this out underneath the video. Now's a great time with so much volatility and so much momentum. I think you can make a significant amount, but you have to know what you're doing as well. So let's start here. The traditional markets are up again today. The NASDAQ up 0.25%. Not bad. It's even come down a little bit since the open, but still rallying most likely off of the CPI numbers yesterday. They came in lower than expected. We have PPI tomorrow, so don't be surprised if there's a bit of volatility around that. Obviously, everyone in crypto seems to be watching Ethereum. Ethereum very close to all-time highs. It just hit $4,750 or just short of that, maybe $4,740, which is just $100 away from all-time highs. It's looking really good, and you can see so much strength recently. Don't be surprised if we see a little bit of a pullback. I talked with Tyler Hill about this yesterday. Don't be surprised if we get rejected, fall down a little bit, reset the RSI, or even come down to 4,000, flip the end to support. I would not be surprised if that happened. That's why actually yesterday I said one of my favorite trades, or one that I've been thinking about a lot recently, was Solana. This is before it went on its run of 15% yesterday. It was at 180, and I said, I think it could run pretty hard with Ethereum being what everyone's looking at. Naturally, people will go to Solana next, and no one really seems to be that bullish on Solana right now. So, yeah, what do you know? It went up 10% now. Ethereum is the belle of the ball right now. People aren't even really paying attention to Bitcoin or talking about it as much, and it's right at all-time highs too. Standard Chartered Bank raised its 2025 year-end ETH price target to $7,500. This was from $4,000. I think this makes people bullish, but I just hate it. Like when analysts or banks are below the current price of an asset that's going up significantly, they all of a sudden just raise the price target. And it's just annoying because it's like they don't do that ahead of time. They don't go out on a limb and say, hey, we think Ethereum could hit 7,500 when it's at like 2,500. It's like they raise it once they're already beneath the current price by 20%, which is just so stupid. But moving on from that, we have $27 billion in dry powder waiting to buy more Ethereum across treasury companies. That's 5% of the total supply. So yeah, this could continue on for a while. Again, we'll see pullbacks. We see that in Bitcoin too. Don't think it's going to go up forever because there are pullbacks, but usually that's a healthy buying in price, or it's nice when it falls down a little bit because then you can buy in, or you can set up a long position or something like that. I'll give you kind of my thoughts on Ethereum versus Bitcoin versus Solana at this time later in the video. But Ethereum inflows continued yesterday, over $500 million, most of it coming from BlackRock. That's after $1 billion the day before when we hit record inflows, which had $640 million from BlackRock. Like BlackRock continues to be the largest buyer of all crypto assets. so bullish for cryptocurrency. The Bitcoin ETFs also didn't have a terrible day. I mean, it wasn't the same inflow as the Ethereum ETFs. They're actually lagging behind a lot right now, but still, I think it was around 70 million or so in inflows, which isn't too bad. Like that's not bad at all. That's better than most ETFs have in a week or a month, right? So yeah, don't be surprised if Bitcoin suddenly is the belle of the ball again and starts racing up to new all-time highs, and then it pulls some attention away from Ethereum or something like that, because Ethereum has not had its day in years. It's been a very long time since it's outperformed Bitcoin, so it's bound to happen at some point. I'll give you some more of my thoughts later, I suppose. But let's get into what Tom Lee just said. He talks about Bitcoin, he talks about ETH, he talks about the traditional stock market as well. Let me play it for you.
Why don't we start off with the markets hitting new record highs once again after that CPI report that, in all honesty, it was kind of mixed. Headline was better than expected.
This is just a few hours ago.
Hotter than expected. What's your take on that?
Well, I think it's just a reflection of the fact that the market was bracing for a hot CPI, knowing that not only was the Fed, but economists were warning that we'd start to see inflation coming through in the July CPI report. So I think it was actually elevated compared to where it was in June, but I think it was much better than expected. So it's one of those rip off the Band-Aid moments.
All right. We were showing the CME Fed Watch tool earlier, just under a 95% chance of a cut coming up in September, being priced in by bond traders. That rate cut, what area of the market does it benefit? Does it definitely just benefit the cyclical sectors? What does it mean for the tech trade, et cetera?
To me, there's a whole area of the market that gets sort of lit up when the Fed gives sort of that dovish signal, or Fed is resuming its cutting cycle, and I think that's things that benefit from liquidity. So that's financials, small caps, and also, believe it or not, Bitcoin.
Oh, Bitcoin. All right, that's interesting. By the way, potential rate cut. We've often thought we're going to get those rate cuts, and they don't actually happen.
It's funny that they say that's interesting. Obviously, Bitcoin's one of the biggest winners of increased liquidity.
No, they're being heavily priced in right now. With that,
that's right.
I want to get to your word of the day. What's your word of the day today, Tom, and why?
The word of the day to me is breakaway. And the reason I'm saying that word is that in early July, Bitcoin made a breakaway move, and I think Bitcoin has been leading the markets by a month. So believe it or not, I think that this is the month that the S&P, makes new highs towards 6,500, 6,600.
Interesting. So you think we hit new highs this month? What's the catalyst? Because, we're pretty much through earnings season. So what pushes us higher other than a lot of optimism over?
So he says 6,500 or 6,600, I think he said there. It's not that big a jump from here. It's like, 3% jump, maybe 2% jump.
Rate cut coming up.
Frank, I think part of it is positioning and sentiment, because I think investors were thinking this is the dog days of August and that we'd be getting some hawkish inflation data. So I think some of that's just the relief that, in fact, CPI was better than expected. I think it's also just follow through because we've had a pretty decent earnings season. And at the end of the day, the economy is holding up pretty well. And, I'd say that it has a lot to do with the fact that August will probably be a surprise and markets are going to be stronger.
All right. Tom, you didn't send us a pick, but I'm going to guess that BitMiner might be your pick today. It's a company that you're involved with. I want to talk to you about Ethereum and also BitMiner.
Yes. Well, Ethereum, has probably become the surprising sort of hit for cryptocurrencies this year because it's up 28%, outperforming Bitcoin. But, in some of the work we've done, we believe it's the biggest macro trade over the next 10 to 15 years. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that stable coins have really become the ChatGPT moment for crypto. And
all right, that's a little bit unhinged, sneezing right into the microphone.
Now we have the Genius Act and Project Crypto from the SEC, which is Wall Street, essentially running onto the blockchain. But one of the best ways we believe to sort of have exposures through Ethereum treasuries, and that's a company like BitMine, which I've become chairman recently.
So when we're talking about Ethereum, it's one cryptocurrency. Stablecoins are obviously in the news, especially with the Circle IPO and Circle just reporting its earnings and offering more shares. And then you mentioned this Bitcoin as well. Why are you so bullish on Ethereum? What are the opportunities you're seeing in Ethereum in particular?
Well, Ethereum is the second largest blockchain. And it's different than Bitcoin because with Bitcoin, you can't really do programmable contracts, so smart contracts. Wall Street needs to find a stable and legally compliant blockchain to work on. The majority of stablecoin creations are taking place on Ethereum. And when you look at where JP Morgan is building a lot of its layer 2s or Coinbase or Robinhood, they're choosing to do it on Ethereum. So it is the place where Wall Street is essentially financializing the system.
All right. So, by the way, you're not the only bullish person or bullish company when it comes to Ethereum. We're just looking right now. Standard Charter raising its year-end target for Ethereum to 7,500 from 4,000. Right now, Ethereum's trading right around, I believe, 4,700. Are you this bullish, 7,500 by year-end?
I think that's within the realm of expectations. Ethereum, I think first needs to clear its prior highs of around 4,800. It's within 6% of that now. Believe it or not, Bitcoin's obviously been making many new all-time highs this year, but Ethereum is still below its 2022 highs, 2021, 2022. So I think once it clears that level, I think Ethereum and small caps tend to be correlated. So to me, 7,500 actually might even be on the low end of what's possible.
Really?
I think I've seen many targets of 10 to 15,000.
All right, one more time before we get out of here. You're known for your granny shots. Can you give us one of your granny shots right now with the fact that we have the markets trading at all-time highs, the S&P and the NASDAQ, again, closing at record highs yesterday?
Yeah, I think really one of the granniest of our granny shots is Nvidia. It's still one of the most important companies. Well, it's probably the most important company in the world. And in terms of forward multiple at 30 times, it's actually still reasonably priced. I believe its PE multiple is still ranks number 38. There are 37 stocks in the S&P 500 with a higher PE than Nvidia.
Okay, so that's kind of interesting. That's kind of a bold take to say Nvidia is one of the granniest shots, means like one of the easiest money plays or one of the safest plays. It's kind of a bold take because most people don't think that. And we'll get to crypto here in a second, but this all ties in. I say it's a bold take because, like I said, it's the largest, quickest growing company out there. But a lot of people feel like, it could be starting to decelerate, or it could decelerate here soon. Now, they announced probably in the next couple weeks, but they've been crushing it. Every metric is up and to the right. I see what he's saying, though. I mean, when you look at how quickly this company is growing, let's say you look at the quarterly here, they've grown revenue 70% over the last 12 months. Like, we've never seen a company this big do that. It's the largest company in the world. Name one time when the largest market cap company grew 70% on the top line in a year. Their bottom line has grown 75%. So if they even have a year left in their growth, or like 2 quarters left in their growth at this pace, this I think is undervalued. Honestly, even at a trailing 12 months 60 PE, or next 12 months 33, 34. But we'll see. Obviously, if it drops off a cliff in revenue at some point, then the whole market is going to feel it, and stocks aren't going to be the only thing. Obviously, if the stock market falls down 10, 20%, Bitcoin will probably fall a decent amount too. Let me play this though for you. This is Tom Lee talking about Ethereum, not just the next end of year price target, but for the next, I don't know how long, maybe decade or so.
So our view of $60,000 ETH is really just a simple sliver of that, just saying that if Wall Street builds a lot of banking activities and just 20% of that share is on Ethereum, and then Ethereum captures a similar share of payment rails, that's going to actually value the Ethereum network at around $60,000.
So that was kind of poor audio because it's, someone holding a camera at a conference. But he's basically saying if Wall Street goes to the blockchain, payment rails go to the blockchain, and ETH gets 20% of the action. 20% will value ETH somewhere around $60,000. So it sounds crazy, but if he's talking a decade out or 20 years out, that's a 15x from here, almost a 12x if you value ETH at $5,000 now. So it sounds crazy right now, but also if you think Bitcoin's going to $10 million, $15 million, it's not crazy to think that layer 2 could also do a 15x, because a $10 million Bitcoin is almost 100x. So yeah, it's not out of the question. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if Bitcoin gets up to millions of dollars, you better believe some alts will probably see some pumps too. Now let's play this. This is what Trump just announced that Fox is saying is causing crypto to go up.
Bitcoin Foundation Chairman Brock Pierce joins us with Bitcoin hovering close to 120,000. Brock, let's begin there. How much higher do you see Bitcoin going?
Well, as I've always said, it's a binary outcome. It's going to a million plus or effectively zero. We're right on the edge of Bitcoin's all-time high at $123,000. Now that the public markets and the broader capital markets are open, you've got 15 companies in the process of going public right now. Retail investors, not just institutional, can now buy with their 401ks. So supply and demand, fixed limits, Bitcoin likely going much higher to break its all-time high.
Well, you just mentioned my next question. I mean, that's a big move, isn't it? Allowing crypto investments into 401k retirement plans. I mean, that's got to be good for the value.
Yeah, there's no question what drove the market to where it is right now is the fact that capital markets have opened up. Institutional investors historically could not invest in Bitcoin because of their charters, but they can invest in public securities, public ETFs. So the institutional markets are what have driven us to where we are. The 401ks are going to broaden retail availability and with that, likely higher prices.
Which crypto company do you think is next to go public?
Okay, so I totally agree with that. I've been saying for years that one of the biggest moments in crypto is when crypto can be put in 401ks because it's just never ending purchasing. And while this isn't today, this is still one of the biggest announcements for Bitcoin's price that we'll see for the next decade, I'd say. One of the biggest, probably top 3, top 4. And it's not something that will necessarily pump Bitcoin 100% today, but it's insane how important this is over time. It's one of those things that happens and it's kind of big news, but then people forget about it over a few days. But it's great for the price of Bitcoin, not for the next 2 days, but for the next 20 years, for the next 100 years. I told you at the beginning of the video, I'd give you my thoughts on investing in Bitcoin versus Ethereum versus Solana versus some of these other altcoins right now. I'm going to do an altcoin video here probably in the next week or so. Might be as early as today, but I still think Bitcoin is by far the safest thing to invest in, and it still will provide some of the best returns over the long term. If you invest in something outside of Bitcoin, I think about it as more of a trade. Like, there are very few people that want to hold on to, I don't know, SUI for the next decade, right? Like, it's more of a way to get your hands on more Bitcoin or more US dollars, try to outpace Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's still going to do well. If you're new to crypto, I actually just filmed on the Telegram, what I would be looking at as a new investor, not trying to time this cycle, but think about the next 4 or 5 years and some other things too that are really important for newer investors. But there are some XRP investors, some Solana and Ethereum investors that stack over years, but I think it's very difficult to go through a bear market with altcoins. It's easier to go through a bear market with Bitcoin. So, even right now, we're going to see different altcoins start pumping much more than Bitcoin at certain times. This is what always happens. One cryptocurrency underperforms, something like Solana right now that no one's really paying attention to. Everyone's watching XRP, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. Then all of a sudden, it will have a 50% move over a week or two. And then everyone will be looking at that. And then the next one will pump. BNB will pump. And then SUI will pump. And then it just is kind of exit liquidity for some of those investors. And the newer investors look at the shiny thing that's going up a lot and buy that. And by that time, it's too late. So I'd figure out what you want to buy. Figure out your plan and try to stick to it. Try not to just get that shiny object syndrome. Also, if you want to trade, that's one way that's a little bit easier, I think, to take profits with a small portion of your portfolio. But right now, I'm still focused on the large caps. There are a couple small caps that I've bought recently. I talked about Inspect recently. That's one that I bought a significant amount of. But I'm not just going after what's ever pumping up the most. I think even right now, after Ethereum's pumped 2x in the last 3 months, I'm naturally more cautious about buying into that versus Bitcoin. Part of that is I'm not Bitcoin maxi, but I also have been through bear markets before, and again, it's much easier to hold Bitcoin, and 90% of my portfolio is in Bitcoin. So I do feel much stronger about Bitcoin than other cryptocurrencies, but when I want to take on more risk, I usually go and leverage trade. I'd rather leverage trade some of the largest cryptos in the world than try to get the next, 50x on some, 100th rated crypto or something like that. Again, there are certain exceptions to that when I see a really good opportunity, but that's just kind of how I would be thinking right now in this moment. I actually have a video where I break down the math, what this could mean. I'll put this on the end screen. Watch it if you haven't already, because it's insane how much this will increase Bitcoin's price over time, even with a small allocation towards Bitcoin. If you want to trade crypto, check out the link to BYDeFi underneath the video. Now is a great time to be trading crypto. People have been making life-changing amounts of money. We've been able to do it too, and it's not rocket science. If you want some explanations on how to do this, I talk about them down below in the Telegram. I've also talked about trading before on the channel. You can search up My Financial Friend Trading. I actually did a pretty long video talking about how to day trade and why you shouldn't day trade, why you should do what I do instead. I'll put that on the end screen as well. Again, there is a trading giveaway going on right now. Check it out. There's also links to BTCC and BitUniX and Weeks underneath the video. They have bonuses too. So try multiple platforms, see what you like. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.